If you're avidly learning always, if you're curious about how it is that you can improve, what habits, techniques, tools you need to be the better woman in your life, chances are you don't need to do more. You need to have a deeper sense of being. We are here to be rooted in that center because that is true femininity. It's flowing, accepting, embracing, having fun with the presence of things. Vital means essential, indispensable to the continuance of life, or full of energy, lively. For us to be full of energy, we have to quit self abandoning. It's time to nurture a gentle but radical self devotion so you are perfectly in alignment with your values and you're able to vocalize your needs because you recognize that you're no longer people pleasing. You're not here to do things or say things to somebody in order to get a reaction or for them to like you. You know that if God accepts and loves you, you are worthy enough. In this video, we are learning how to rest in God's presence to feel safe and seen and cherished. We're going to prioritize pursuing our spirit over the flesh. That is what gives us power as women, which only leads us to serve God even more. Welcome to Devoted to Extraordinary, where today is the first, last, only, and best day of your entire life, as you already know. Please subscribe if you want to continue being on this journey of femininity, having more virtue, and increasing your vitality together. And subscribe to the Substack, where I let you know through a weekly newsletter everything I'm talking about here on YouTube. How can we be stronger in our spirit if we don't discern it from the flesh? So, first thing we want to do is strengthen that capacity to discern between the voice of the spirit and the voice of the flesh. I did not wake up to the importance of being on God's side, on knowing who the creator is, what gives me energy, what gives me vitality, until I was so afraid because I had met the devil. I know that he exists, therefore, I know that God exists. That's how my logic happened. I'll be doing a video on my testimony to be more in depth on those examples. But what we often do if we have a traumatic background or we just blank out the idea that we're actually an authority in our own lives, that we actually get to choose and no longer be victims, we tend to confuse intuition with anxiety. We don't know the difference between those two voices. And if you really want to get specific, there's a video that I did on exactly that. But to summarize it for this video, the flesh is going to tell you to do what feels good right now, whereas the spirit will say, do what is right so that in the long run, you're a better person for it. It will lead to lasting peace. I see a very clear distinction, and I can discern so easily today versus how I used to the voice of the flesh, which is that of Satan or the devil, and the voice of God, which is that of the spirit. To put it in black and white terms, God speaks softly. He is still. He is ever present. He tells the truth. He is honest with me. I can rely on him. He encourages me. He makes me feel positive about my life. He gives me joy. I feel reassured. I feel steady. I feel calm in his presence. I can easily surrender. Just bringing him to mind makes me feel restful. It puts me at peace. He is convicting. He is encouraging of me. And he knows that I can do it and that I'm worthy because I'm his daughter. And ultimately, what he does is he gives energy. He makes me feel vitalized. On the other hand, the devil talks about lies. He tells me that I cannot do it. He does not believe in me. He discourages me. His voice is very loud compared to God's. He will tell me to do something quickly. He will put me into survival mode instead of the creative mode that God will put me into. The devil will rush. He will obsess. He will make me worry. He'll exhaust me and frighten me. He'll confuse me instead of give me order. This is how what we do and our habits drain us or give us energy in the long run. So when I say pursue the spirit, I'm saying serve God. When I say you're pursuing the flesh, I'm saying you're serving the devil. So there's nothing that gets me out of a stupor or out of a 3-hour binge faster than this isn't serving God anymore. I'm serving the devil now. I'm serving the enemy. One of my favorite verses is Galatians 5:22 to 23. It says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law." Against such there is no law. There is nothing that can fight against us when we have the fruits of the Spirit, because we are rooted in habits that gift us those fruits. So if you hold a decision in mind, does it bring you joy and peace? If so, that is Spirit led. But if that decision could lead to impulsivity or shame or anxiety, it is one that is rooted in the flesh. So, an image that I created that illustrates this quite well is that God takes the form in our lives that we perceive. So, our perception of the world is quite tiny, and it can grow over time the further we want to expand our comfort zone and the further we want to zoom out with our perspective and see how God is working all the time. And the key is that God can only move in our lives to the degree by which we welcome Him. If I don't open the door, if I don't reach out, if I don't read my Bible, if I don't pray, if I'm not looking to know His heart also, how can I expect Him to bless me? If I'm not seeking Him, how will I find Him? So, on one side of the chart, we have further from the truth. It is more dense and it requires more effort. We see how things are happening to me. That's our perspective. It's one of suffering because we are attached to our circumstances. And I think a lot of us are stuck in this victim mindset. And the other side of the chart is closer to the truth. It is more spirit than it is flesh, and it is closer to effortless. In the middle, we have by me, achiever. Things aren't just happening because God is doing them. I have an active role to play due to my free will in my own life. My blessings will come only if I crave and nurture and pursue that relationship with God myself as well. On the other side of the chart, we detach from our circumstances entirely. We see how God is at work and we see that things are happening through me. Now I can see how everything in my life is happening for me, especially the hard lessons, because those are the ones I will never repeat again. It has given me such a centeredness so that I can release control. So, the more we release control and surrender is because more of our confidence and our reassurance is all held in God. It is that trust in the relationship that we're building with Him that allows us to let go of the reins. When we are shameful all the time, we'll think that God is despising. When we feel guilt, we'll think that God is vindictive. When we feel apathetic, we'll think that God is condemning. When we are fearful, always, we'll think that God is punitive. And this is an outlook that we might have as a culture. Our media doesn't paint God as a reliable figure. So it's very possible that you might be stuck in one of these places with how you perceive God to work in your life. Please comment below because I'd love to know where on this chart you think you are. Once we start coming out of the perception that everything in our life is happening to us and that we're victims of this mode, that we're capable, in fact, of changing if we choose differently, then we turn into the achiever. If we have anger, we might see God as vengeful. If we're prideful, we might see God as indifferent. We may see, if we're courageous, that God is a permitting God. And we can have the feeling of desire more often. We may see that God is a denying God. The real change comes when we begin to depend on God and when we strengthen our faith by stepping back further in life and praying more often. We turn into this greatness, this perspective of through me. When I have willingness, then God is inspiring. God is great. He gives me ideas I can create. Then there is reason. When I have reason, I can create order and harmony in my life. I think God is wise. Then there's a feeling of love. Of course, there's the loving God. He loves me. He's my father. There's a feeling of neutrality, which means that we see God as enabling, like He allows me to do this. There is the feeling of acceptance, thinking that God is merciful. I am accepted by Him. He has mercy on me. And this shows how when we choose the spirit over the flesh, we start growing ourselves and we start seeing the limitless potential that our Creator has gifted us. And that's what I mean when I say that God takes the form that we perceive. It's because we won't be able to see what He's capable of unless we start to see what we're capable of. And I also wrote here as a reminder that to have the best life, we need to be obedient to God's nudges. And that word obedient might strike a chord for some of you, but it's a bit like the word submissive in a relationship. If I, as a woman, submit to a man, it's because he submits to God, the same God who instructs me and I'd be willing to submit to. So being obedient to God isn't a punishing form of sacrifice. Yes, there is sacrifice involved. Sometimes I won't get my will because I want your will, God, to be done. But there is a capacity in seeing that when I sacrifice my will, your will is going to be better. So I'd rather be obedient to you because you have the bigger picture. The video I talked about before tells more about those nudges and our body's intuition and how to be more in touch with them. Please subscribe to the Substack if you'd like to hear from me on the newsletter. And until next week, as my grandma always said, harden not your hearts, love and serve each other.